हो अपना संगीत वजे अपना संगीत आओ पाइए भंगड़ा ते नाले गाइए गीत.
Now everybody has their own version of what they think are classic Bhangra albums, but I'm sure this album would be in everyone's top 5, Jam to the Bhangra. Tonight, I'm in conversation with the duo that put that project together, Sardara Gill from Apna Sangeet and one of the legendary figures of Bhangra music, Amarjit Sidhu. First of all, welcome to British Studios, Amarjit Sidhu and Sardara Gill.
It's a pleasure to be here, Dips.
It's a bit of a weird one, isn't it, to be sitting here after so many years of working together, so many great albums. It's probably the first interview you're doing on TV, I'm guessing.
It is,
yes.
We've done most on radio, but it's the first time on TV.
Well, I mean, everybody knows Amarjit Sidhu and Sardara Gill as, Bhangra legends, one of the pioneers of our time, who started Bhangra music and brought it to what it is today. Sardara, we'll start with you first. Does he, I think, around about 60s, 70s?
63.
63.
1963.
So you've been here for a while.
Long time ago.
And you've always been into singing?
Yes, from day one. Yeah. Actually, I learned my Punjabi में थे आके सीखा and अपने समय दे गुरुद्वारे साडे मास्टर दर्शन पोगल हुंदा सी वो ढोल के भी आंदा सी ते शब्द पढ़दे हुंदे सी मेरा brother भी नाल पढ़दा हुंदा सी.
So all started from the Gurdwara.
From the Gurdwara.
And Amarjit, when did you kind of start your journey into the musical world?
My journey actually started probably in the early 60s, because my father used to run the Indian cinemas in this country.
Okay.
And so I was exposed to a lot of Bollywood music and Bollywood films. So it used to be drummed in every single day because we were watching films virtually every day.
Wow.
So that was my exposure into sort of music at an early age.
I mean, in terms of doing it, full time as such, because obviously it wasn't full time because everyone was, back in the 70s, 80s working as well as doing music. So that, when did it start for you? It was about the late 70s?
Late 70s, 79 actually when we started with Pachangi group, the Lochan Singh Belka Sahab ji. And that's when we started when Kulwant Bhamrah, your dad, was also with me. So that's when we started actually, when we formed, 4 years we sang with Pachangi group. Then in 1983 we formed Apna Sangeet.
And it's always been a passion of yours, singing, hasn't it? Yeah. Why did you decide that, singing is the one thing for me? Because it takes a lot of confidence to be a singer and to actually admit that, I want to be a singer, I enjoy singing.
It's something when I was, when I was in India, I've always wanted to sing, listening to be. Sometimes you only have to be in a pind ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਦਾ radio station ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ radio ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ ਉਹਦੇ ਘਰ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਗਾਣਾ ਸੁਣਨਾ used to start singing whatever it is ਹੈ ਨਾ ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਆਲੇ ਦੁਆਲੇ ਗਵਾਂਢ ਦੀਆਂ ਲੇਡੀਜ਼ ਇਕੱਠੀਆਂ ਹੋ ਜਾਣੀਆਂ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਸਰਦਾਰੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਅੰਬ ਦਊਂਗੀ ਇੱਕ ਗੀਤ ਗਾ ਦੇ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਤਾਂ ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਗਾਣਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਗਾ ਦੇਣਾ.
And Amarjit, with you, you've got a whole list I could reel off. You were a musician, a singer, a music producer, a promoter, pharmacist. Is there anything else I've missed? Missed off the long list of Amarjit Sidhu, who, a lot of people wouldn't know now that you were one of the guys who was always pushing Bhangra music and the movement forward in the 80s, in the 70s and 80s.
I think it was just an era, the sort of late 70s, early 80s, essentially. That was like the boom of Bhangra music, and there were so many bands erupting in those early 80s, and we would look at one particular band. He's just mentioned Pachangi, and we used to invite Pachangi to the university, and I would look at them and I used to say to myself, I want to do music and I want to be a singer, or I want to be able to play an instrument. I think just watching people grow in music in this country was the encouragement that I had. And from the sort of early 80s, it was always my desire to want to have a band and be able to go on stage and be a performer, essentially.
Which you kind of did with Jarak Pechan, which was your first band alongside Mangal Singh. And it was a great band at the time. But I think your combination together pretty much began with Apna Sangeet, didn't it?
It did. I went through a period where I was with Jarak Pechan. I left them, and you know, I think I was approached by Apna Sangeet to manage them initially.
There we go. That's another one on the list.
Yeah. So I became their manager. Danda Gadge. And yeah, I think discipline it was something that came from my youth, really, from my parents and whatever, and everything I've always done. I think discipline has to be there. So when I was with the first steps were that, look, discipline has got to be there. And discipline essentially means that it's the work, you know, the work that you're doing. You've got to take it seriously, and it's a profession for you. And you're going to be serious and work your way up. And I think we did. I know we did a lot of new concepts with Apna Sangeet in those days.
You were literally releasing album every year, you know, by Apna Sangeet in '86. You had Tour India with Sohrood on it, Mera Yaar with Mera Yaar on it. I think Apna Sangeet were responsible for creating the phrase "Chak de Fatte." That was an Apna Sangeet creation at the time. That led on to solo projects that were appearing in the band. You know, Apna Sangeet in the early '90s, I would say that was pretty much your peak, wasn't it, as the original six? Why did you guys decide that you wanted to do your own projects? You know, you're there, you're touring the world, you're the big thing. Why decide to do different things?
You know, like Kulwant had some ideas he wanted to portray with his singing, and I had some ideas. Then that's where you actually.
It's always very difficult when you've got a team. In a team, you've got different ideas, different views. Sometimes you want to express your own views, and it's very difficult when there's a team. Sometimes you have to come out slightly to just be able to do something that you.
Because within a band, we used to have whatever the majority said that went, you know, within the band.
Which is, it happens in mainstream all the time, you know. And you know, I think what it does, it kind of shows a new light, a new dimension to not just the individual but the band as well. And that was the key thing. Apna Sangeet never, you know, went their separate ways. It was always, yes, you can do your own things, but you know, the band is still home in a way.
Whatever we did differently, it was all beneficial to the band at the end of the day. That was the main thing.
And talking about beneficial things, you know, that led to, I think, what a lot of people would say was one of the greatest Bhangra albums of all time, Jam to the Bhangra, which, you know, you vocaled and you produced. How did that come about? Where were the ideas? You know, where was that first initial Yaar Kuch Kariye?
As I said, the early 90s was an experimental time because there were a lot of sampling going on. I mean, it was a new concept again, and I had just finished. I think it was Kamli Rave or something like that, and at the time, Sardara wanted to experiment as well with different ideas, and so we both met up, and I said, look. Let me do something, and you know, we'll sort of go slightly different to what Apna Sangeet have been previously doing. And so we sat down and we thought, well, what shall we do? And obviously, as many people at home will know, Sardara is a great fan of Gurdas Mann.
Yeah.
And his live sort of set always incorporates some of Gurdas Mann's great songs. And we decided, I think, that we would choose one or two of those, coupled with some originals and some of his previous sort of work that he had done, but with a modern approach, with something that hadn't been done. And just experimenting, really. Music is about experimenting, and you don't know what's going to work and what isn't going to work.
It can become a hit or it can become a flop.
I mean, it could have been a total, but luckily, I think. But I think the bottom line was we worked hard on it. I think like anything, if you work hard, you know.
Sohrodi utte tannu labda fera ni मैं कन्ना विच मुंदरा पाके